HR tech, work tech, and investment are transforming the future of work. Are you in the know? Welcome to the WorkTech podcast. Join host George Larocque for expert insights on the trends, M&A activity, and strategies shaping the workplace. Brought to you by oneworktech.com and the Work Defined Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, it's George Larocque. Welcome back to WorkTech. Today we've got one of the conversations that I love having. So there's so much going on in the market. We talk about all the time. We talk about what's up for investors, what's happening in the market, what's happening for founders, the challenges, the opportunities. And I can't think of a better person to talk to about all of that. We've got Allison Baum Gates, who is general partner at Semper Virens with us. And we've also got some exciting news to talk about. They've made some major announcements in the last few months. So I'm excited to dig in and share that with all of you. And welcome, Allison.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so there is a lot to talk about. You're very busy over at Semper Virens, but let's start with, quick introductions, your journey, so how you got into Semper Virens and what Semper Virens is for the audience, if anybody doesn't know.
Absolutely. Semper Virens is an early stage venture fund. We invest in technology changing healthcare, work, and financial wellness. And our thesis as a fund is that technology has disrupted the relationship between employers and employees. Our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation went into an office 5 days a week, had the same job probably their entire career. Today, 20% of millennials have changed their job in the past year alone. They have, on average, 13 jobs so far. If you were born between 1980 and 1985, everybody is highly dissatisfied, pursuing different types of careers. And historically, that employer-employee relationship has been critical. You get your healthcare from your employer, you get your work from your employer, your identity from your employer, your community from your employer, and you get your money from your employer. And so we believe we need to rewire that relationship, and those pieces, which also happen to be the largest sectors in the economy, need to be rebuilt for a digital age and now an AI age. So we're investing in companies from seed to Series B, and we help create a competitive advantage by accelerating distribution through our network of end customers and distribution partners. So we have an advisory group of over 200 senior executives from publicly traded companies that act as advisors, customers, and references for our portfolio companies. And we also get about 35-40% of our capital from strategic partners that like to either invest or distribute or be customers themselves. They come from a number of different categories: insurance carriers, health plans, hospital systems, payroll providers, brokers. So whether you're selling to any of those personas or you're selling direct into the enterprise, we can hook you up with exactly who you need to know in order to make it happen. We were founded in 2018. Today we have about 300 million under management, portfolio of roughly 80 companies. We're a top quartile fund, and yeah, we've been busy. So that's a little bit about Semper Virens. My journey into venture was a little bit unusual. I have always been really obsessed with this idea of how work is changing. I grew up watching both of my parents' jobs being constantly disrupted by technology. My mom was a graphic designer, my dad was an architect, and then went into finance. And so kind of grew up being totally committed to making sure that it never happened to me. I went to Harvard, started my career on Wall Street, thought I had made it, and then the financial crisis happened. And the combination of a rough macroeconomic environment and advances in technology meant even my job, several years out of an Ivy League institution, was being automated. And the kind of long-term trajectory had changed. So I kind of thought, hey, I've had every privilege in the world. I've literally been obsessed with this since I was a kid. And yet this is still happening to me. like this is going to be one of the biggest problems for our entire generation. And so wanted to be in the disrupting side instead of the disrupted side. So joined a venture-backed startup, ended up taking that business internationally. So moved to Hong Kong and then Tokyo, and then actually started a venture fund while I was out there, investing in the future of work and helping companies think more globally. Ended up kind of saying, okay, we raised about $40 million for that fund, invested in a number of unicorns, and then wanted to do VC for real. So moved to the Bay Area and joined a firm based on Sand Hill Road. And while I was there, I got an inside look into how quickly venture itself is changing. So yet
Right.
again, technology disrupting the industry that I've chosen. And, when I teamed up with my partners at Semper Virens, I really believe that this is the future of venture, that we need to have a very focused thesis as well as a concrete value add in order to help our companies succeed.
Yeah. And when you joined Semper Virens, were you part of the founding team that was creating it, or early? How did that look at the time?
Brack and Robbie started Semper Virens in 2018,
Okay.
both coming from the Sequoia Consulting Group. They saw kind of this massive customer base of high growth tech companies that were eager to adopt new tools for their talent pools. And so, they wanted to invest and spur innovation that might help them have a competitive edge. Our first fund was 20 million. It was a little bit of an experiment. We had 99 individual investors in the fund, and that was where our capital came from. And I was actually at another venture firm at the time, kind of investing in the same companies and meeting up with them every day and kind of talking about deal flow. And in 2019, 2020, Robbie came to me and said, "Hey, I think we're going to do this for real." And I had kind of this unique experience being a co-founder and entrepreneur in venture previously. And so, we were a match made in heaven from that perspective. And yeah, we've grown quite a bit since then.
Yeah, it's such a great story. And I think it's so unique. There's so very few firms that are really focused on this space. And then individuals in those firms who have any real experience, as an operator or, working in the field at all. So that's always struck me, both, the expertise that you all have looking at all your bios, but then also all of your LPs, everything's very intentional. And you can see that when you take a closer look. So I recommend any founder taking a closer look, and so, kudos on all of that. And I agree with you. I think that focus, just like for the startups that we talk to,
Yeah.
focus really differentiates and helps in the field. So, but and now you've written a book about all of this as well, right? Your
Yes.
journey to this point.
Yeah. I mean, throughout my career, I've developed this reputation for saying embarrassing things and I guess being willing to share my failures and my journey. And so tried to capitalize on that, I think, throughout my career in venture. And this is true in entrepreneurship too. There's this ethos of fake it till you make it. Everybody's crushing it. Oh, look at all these successful things that I've done. And, venture is a game where you could invest in 100 companies, and if you get just one right, that makes you good at it.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to share all the learnings along the way of the mistakes that I made and the things that didn't work out, because that's what's made me into the investor that I am today. And I think from the outside looking in, you can often look at venture and just think, wow, everybody's so lucky and they're just doing great. But I wanted to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and share not only my stories of investments gone wrong or, botched board meetings, but also share those from other VCs as well. I think I've had to piece together a lot of stories, over drinks or walks and where people tend to open up. And so wanted to create a piece of a repertoire of some of those stories that I earned over the years that, if I could get some of my friends to open up to about when they really internalized the lessons that they needed to learn in order to be successful at venture. So I've got some great interviews in there, great stories. Hopefully it'll make you laugh, but also be a little bit useful.
Cool. And I'll make sure to put a link to the book in the notes. And And what's the title of the book?
Breaking into venture.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know there are a lot of folks considering that move, so
Yeah.
should be required for them. So, but all of that, I could dig into your story and just the backstory on Semper Virens for a long time. But there are a couple of announcements that you've made in the last few months that sort of brought us together here. The first, the most recent one, or at least with the impetus for this, was your launch of your accelerator. So that's really exciting to me. And I'd love to, when I read through the press release and what's been put out there, like the backstory on Semper Virens and your story, this seems to be more than just, a pitch deck mill or something like just cranking them
Yeah.
out. Like there's, again,
Well,
very
thank you.
intentional. So what's the focus? What is it going to be like for this cohort that you've got coming through right now?
So I'll start by saying what the focus is, and then I'll
Yep.
explain how we got there.
All right.
The Semper Virens Accelerator is focused on pre-seed and seed stage startups that are leveraging technology to solve problems for people. So whether it's about how you get your healthcare, how you navigate your job, how you make money, what you
Yep.
do with that money, how you interact with healthcare providers, all of anything in health, wealth, and work at that stage is perfect for the accelerator. What we can do is help you figure out how to scale your go-to-market distribution. Uh, So today it's easier than ever to start a company. We have record number of startups coming out of the woodwork every year, and a lot of them are, AI native, which is amazing, but also means the barrier to entry is a lot lower. For end customers and end users, that means there's way more noise than there ever was before. And so, what we can help you do is figure out how to rise above that noise, how to team up with the right people and the right stakeholders in order to get your product into as many hands as possible, as quickly as possible. And it emerged out of the evolution of Semper Virens insofar as when the firm started back in 2018. I would say from 2018 to 2021, HR leaders and employers were very eager to try new technology products. If there was something that solved a problem for the end employee, selling into HR was great. Mental health, fertility benefits, care navigation, financial wellness, recruiting, learning and development. The floodgates were open and everybody was trying new things, and that was awesome. But what started to happen in 2021 when the market kind of hit a peak and everybody started to peel back budgets, really emphasize ROI, is that we heard from a lot of HR leaders, I really want this for my employees, but I don't think I should be the one to pay for it. And we started to see the most compelling founders figure out how to go through insurance carriers or sell straight into health plans or get a Workday or a ServiceNow or a payroll provider like ADP or Paychex to be the customer or the person buying the product and then distributing it through to the end user. So there are all these complex stakeholders around the table that are behind the scenes when it comes to making your life possible as an employee, and really smart founders figured out how to find them instead of selling directly into the employer. And that's a massive opportunity, but it's also really confusing because we look for founder market fit. If you have experience in healthcare or you have experience in HR, great. But there's no way that you have experience with life and disability cares and brokers and also health plans and also hospital systems and also, you know, core HR tech providers. And so the program is 10 to 12 weeks. We bring in all of these different stakeholders. We help you, we educate you on how they work. We team you up, we introduce you to the people that you need to know if you were to work with them. We help you learn how it works and then actually match you with advisors that will help you navigate your distribution channel of choice. So it's a world of abundance in a lot of ways, but
Okay.
that means that finding your path can be even more confusing. And that's really the problem we're trying to solve at the accelerator.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I talk to a lot of startups that are in between those stages you talked about or coming out of them. And I spend a lot of time talking to them about how the most efficient way to get to market is an ecosystem. And I'm not just talking about referral relationships, but real partnerships, real reseller or embedding your technology. And there's a it's such it's that is super helpful. because most of them haven't really considered those channels that you're talking about, really meaningful channels. Again, not press release partnerships or
Right.
just, getting into a marketplace via API or something. That is great. And I noticed that.
Hey, it's Libby DeLucian. If you're sick of business advice that sounds cute, but doesn't actually move the needle forward, this one's for you. The Libby DeLucian podcast is where we go one layer deep. No gurus, no glitter, just straight up unfiltered talk about scaling a business, running a household, and holding on to your sanity in the middle of the chaos. If you're the bottleneck in your business or in your own life, I'll show you how to fix it. Simple, tactical, and one layer deep every time. Let's go. Visit libbyd.com and check out our podcast today.
You've got execs from places like ADP, Databricks, Anthem, and other, really big companies that are in that ecosystem. And how do they get involved? Are they also, maybe they're firms, or are they themselves LPs? Or are they just, committed to the cause? How does it all work?
A little bit of both. A lot of our Semper Virens advisors are part of the program because they're eager to work directly with founders to help them navigate this process. So if you are accepted into the accelerator program, Semper Virens invests in your company, but we also match you directly with two of these advisors. And we ask that you provide some advisor equity directly to them. So having that ability to be on the cap table themselves, to really partner closely with founders, and to be that trusted guide is really exciting for them. I mean, a lot of these folks have built these incredible corporate careers, but they've been part of these huge organizations. And I experienced it myself coming out of Goldman Sachs and joining a 10-person startup. It's like all of a sudden the world is in 3D. It's so fun to work with really driven founders where, like, if you want to change something, you just change it. And so I think that's a lot of what they get really jazzed about as well.
Yeah. I bet they learn so much, especially when it's their first time in that role. Just realizing, like when you say 3D, one of those dimensions is, okay, this isn't quite as easy as, when you have your need and your use case and you're looking at the
Right.
tech and saying, why can't it do this? And then you realize, well, there are thousands of potential customers out there, and we've got to try to do the right thing for the most. We need to leverage the opportunity. That's a big service too for everyone in the market, to that education. It's also positioned, I noticed, as through the accelerator, sort of an entry point to the broader founder, ecosystem at Semper Virens. What does that look like? What's the coming out of the accelerator? What does that look like for them?
Semper Virens invests anywhere from pre-seed to Series B. And our goal for the companies going through the accelerator is that we get to build our relationship over an extended period of time that's not during a transactional fundraising process. So we plan and want to invest larger amounts of money in subsequent rounds, but it is a double kind of opt-in when it comes to really, deeper equity partner. And so we see the accelerator as an opportunity to, take some capital up front, but more importantly, build the network, test the fit, and then ideally, foray into a larger investment from Semper Virens. It's not a guarantee. And of course, there will be situations where it ends up not being a fit, but that is our goal. Of a lot of fundraisers these days go very, very quickly, and you don't really get the opportunity to see what it's like to work together, even though the average venture investment lasts longer than the average marriage. And so being able to really test that out on both sides is a lot of fun and really valuable for both of
Yeah.
us.
And as an accelerator, I realize the span that you've mentioned that the Semper Virens invests in. Are you, considering founders that have an idea and a good track record, or do they need to have product, or is there a shape of the startup that needs to exist before you'll consider them for the accelerator?
We believe there needs to be a product that's ready to show potential customers. If we're going to walk you into, brand name health plans and
Mm,
employers, it is beneficial to have something ready to demo where you know exactly what problem you're solving. How you get it into the right hands, that's where we can help you figure it out. But if you're still in the idea stage, it's probably a little bit you're too early for the accelerator.
okay, so they've already got product market fit and
I don't think you need to have product market fit. I mean, definitely pre-seed and seed stage where you have a product, you know the problem that you're solving. It's just a question of what is that kind of channel market fit or
okay,
product channel fit?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, it sounds really exciting, and it sounds very different. That I meet a lot of founders who have gone through less focused accelerators, and they spend a lot of time and end up giving up equity and sometimes dollars to get into those programs, and the return isn't really there. And this is all based on developing channels to deliver that return, that go to market and that scales. Like really like the approach. So the other big news though that you had, the other big announcement that you had made in the last few months was, I guess, closing the 177 million. That was across two vehicles early this year, right? That's
Mhm.
so you've come a long way from the 20 million.
Yeah, feels good.
Tell us about those funds, and I think you've talked about the thesis. So, like, what types of companies or stage companies you're looking for, but maybe an update on how that's been deployed and where you see you're moving forward.
Yeah, the new funds are a continuation of what we've been doing. Pre-seed to Series B
Yep.
investing, writing checks 500K to 5 million, and then taking those companies and leveraging our ecosystem, our network of end buyers and distribution partners to help them scale faster. We do place a really big emphasis on founders.
Hmm.
The interesting thing about starting a company in health, wealth, or work is everybody has health, everybody has to deal with money, and everybody has had a job.
Yep.
Probably most people have hired someone at least once. And so I think a lot of founders kind of tell this story when we hear their pitches of like, I had a health scare myself. And, I think that is definitely powerful in terms of inspiring a mission for your company. But we really look for founders that have experience with the end customer that they're selling to. So just because you've had a health problem doesn't mean you know how a health plan works. And so really looking for founders that have had experience navigating the maze of the employer-employee relationship in whatever capacity that is, and are eager to solve a problem and understand the complexity of the process. So that's a big piece for us. And then I think what a lot of founders don't realize is there's also just fund founder fit, where depending on where you are in your deployment cycle or kind of where you are in your fund metrics, sometimes there could be really great companies that just are not good investments because they don't fit into the portfolio. And so that's why I like to do a lot of talking about venture and writing and speaking about ventures, so that a lot of times it really isn't you, it's us, but also a lot of times it really is you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's of course.
Yeah.
But so the bit about the founders and their experience, um, I find some folks come in from, outside, and the way you framed it is exactly right. Like, well, I've had a job and I know,
Yeah.
my manager sucks, so I know how to do this better, or, recruitment or healthcare. But sometimes those fresh eyes are really powerful. And I find when
Mhm.
they've, surrounded themselves, when they've made the effort, to maybe bring in a co-founder who has the kind of background you're looking for, and maybe they've got the business model and the acumen to take something to market, and somebody else is framing the solution. But I can see it go both ways. The folks who come in with the experience can have blinders on and really be narrow in how they view things. And I'm curious, is it a co-founder mix that you find, helps in that, or is it just digging in a level deeper to understand how they think about solving problems?
Definitely. The number one trait that I value in a founder is self-awareness.
Okay.
So I think you need to know enough to know what questions to ask, but not think that you have all the answers. And a lot of times we see folks that have too much experience and they think they have all the answers. And that can be a really bad thing also. So that self-awareness piece is really important. And again, that's something we get to see over time, especially if you participate in the accelerator, where we can see, how you deal with identifying gaps and also how you go about fixing them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've said, or I've seen in the materials, that the best VCs act like operators, right? And
Mhm.
so, and because of all your backgrounds, that you're able to sniff that out right away. I would imagine, the BS detectors go off when you see a forecast or,
Oh, yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think founders joke that VCs don't know anything and that, we're separated from reality. And there are definitely things that founders know best. Like, we're looking to you to be the expert in your product and your technology and your market, not us. But the advantage we typically have on founders is that we look at 1,500 companies a year, and I'm on 5 boards. We invest in 10 companies. We also have a portfolio of 80 companies. So our breadth of data points is a lot wider than what a founder has when you're really operating an N of one. And so I think folks that are open to hearing that, and also VCs that are self-aware enough to say, yeah, I don't know the nuances of your sale or your product roadmap. You know that, and we need you to be the expert in that. So it's makes for some really interesting conversations when you have founders that are open and curious, but still convicted. And hopefully we can bring that mindset to the table as well.
So I feel like that's a great segue into sort of the market conditions, but is there anything about, the funds or anything that you'd like folks to know before I make that shift? I don't want to minimize the time on, because it's great opportunities for the market here with Semper
Yeah.
Virens.
No, we're just looking for generation defining companies that are leveraging AI to transform health, wealth, and work. And so if you're building in that area or you know somebody great who is, please reach out.
Okay, cool. All right. So now the market, because this is the news is exciting, but I've been so curious to get your take on a few things. And it relates to some of this founder conversation that you were just having with me. So I talk to so many startups, and right now, every day I hear how hard it is to, especially in that early stage, sort of, pre-seed through B. It doesn't matter how small of a round they're raising, or even if they have, revenue that they've got. It's just everything seems more difficult. It's taking longer. Expectations are higher. So from your side, how are you seeing the market for, whether it's for your portfolio companies or whether it's for folks trying to get into your portfolio? What are the things that you're focused on as a VC? I think everybody wants to understand how, in this climate, what can I do as a founder? What should I be coming to the table with? And I know it might be a little different at pre-seed versus seed versus A. So any
Yep.
context you want to provide is helpful.
Yeah, I think we're really seeing that AI is exacerbating the dynamic of haves and have-nots. The companies that are able to successfully fill the coffers, raise big rounds, grow quickly, they get access to more money and more customers, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. And if you are not necessarily an AI native company or you're not telling that as part of your story, then your valuation is going to be lower, your fundraise is going to be longer, and it's going to be a more challenging process. So, it is very, very interesting to see how there are companies with very little traction that run a good fundraising process. are able to raise a lot of money at a high valuation. And then there are companies with a lot of traction who are not approaching fundraising in a structured way, and they end up, I think, struggling to raise. So it's only going to get more bifurcated,
Mm.
where success begets success. And if you have not had that success, then people look at you and say, well, why hasn't anybody else invested? So that's kind of the problem, actually, I've been obsessed with over the last couple years, is why is it that you can have substantially similar founders building substantially similar products with substantially similar traction, and one company is worth 100 million and another one can't raise money at all. And where I've landed is it comes back to a founder's ability to navigate the process and willingness to play the game. And that is what my next book is about, Beyond the Pitch, the psychology of raising venture funding. So yeah, it's a really interesting time, and it's getting more and more, the difference between the two is becoming more and more pronounced in this market.
So when I hear you talk about the process and running that process structure, I mean, I don't find it's like Groundhog Day, the conversation about, look, this is a full-time thing, and you're going to take yourself out of the field or out away from the core, and you're going to have to run this like it's a process, as important as it is. And so that's one thing. But when you say play the game, what does that mean? Like what are you referring to there? Because I could take that a few different ways. None of them are bad. I'm just curious what that, ties to.
Raising venture funding is a playbook. It is a game. There is politics. There is a lot of information that people won't tell you when you're doing it. And you have to be willing to play by the rules of VC if you're going to raise venture funding. And it takes a lot of work to figure out what are those rules and how do you navigate them and set yourself up for success. But I think a lot of founders believe that venture capital is a merit-based industry, and I wish it were that way, but it's not. And the way VC business models are predicated on the fact that you will raise more money later at a higher valuation, because it takes now more than 10 years on average for a company to exit. So we raise new funds every 3 years. So you need to be able to demonstrate, or you need to be able to make me believe that sometime in the next 3 years, you'll raise more money at a higher valuation. And that makes me look good so that I can go out and keep raising money and in order to keep investing money. So I think there are a lot of folks that approach the process saying, if I have it's the same as distributing a product. You say, I have a great product, so people will buy it. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works. The best product doesn't always win, and I think that's true in venture as well.
Yeah, that might be, your answer to that question might be the most honest thing I've heard a VC say about the process, period. I mean, not in a long time, like ever. And I think a lot, like, we know those things intuitively, but it's just refreshing to hear it coming from a VC in our space. And I think you're 100% right that it breaks my heart when those founders who don't understand, why are they raising so much when, we've got just as much revenue, and it's, there are myriad answers to that, but there's that. I like that. You've got to play the game in that sense. So, all right, we're running out of time. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you and close that I think we covered. So I think the important thing is for folks to understand, where can they get your book? And I'll share a link, but maybe we talk about the title of the book again so folks can go find it. And what's the best way to get in Semper Virens' pipeline? Maybe that's the bigger question.
Absolutely. So please, if you think the accelerator could be valuable to you, go ahead and apply. We take applications on a rolling basis. The deadline for the next cohort is August 15th. So please go to our website, sempervirensvc.com/accelerator, and click the apply here button, and that is the best way to get into our pipeline. And my book is called Breaking into Venture. It's available on Amazon, audiobooks.com, audible.com. I did not narrate it, unfortunately. There is a funny story
Okay.
about that I will save for the next episode, but please
All
check it
right.
out and hopefully it will be helpful.
Cool. That's great. We'll link to all of that in the show notes if you're on YouTube, or if you're seeing this via LinkedIn or something, a clip, it'll be at WorkTech in our article there. So Allison, thank you so much. Thanks for having
Thank you, George.
such an open conversation about this and sharing the Semper Virens story and your story with the WorkTech audience. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. And thanks everybody, wherever you're watching or listening.
Thanks for tuning in to the WorkTech podcast. Visit us at oneworktech.com and find out why WorkTech is considered the most trusted source of market intelligence and strategic advice for WorkTech. Subscribe to the WorkTech YouTube channel for video episodes and exclusive content. And be sure to check out the entire Work Defined podcast network at WRKDefined.com for more podcasts on the world of work.